Ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready for the third and final interview of the first segment of this stream. And the title of this discussion is Building Secure Interconnected World. What is the role of the telecom sector? New technologies such as 5G, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things act as a catalyst to digitalization. But at the same time, they create new opportunities for cyber criminals. How to protect your business and users in this new environment? And what is the role of the telecommunications sector in building a truly secure digital world? Our next speakers have the answers. Alexey Kornya, President, CEO, and Chairman of the Management Board at MTS, and Sebastian Tolstoy, Head of Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and General Director, Ericsson, Russia. Alexey, Sebastian, thank you very much for joining Cyber Polygon. It's a pleasure to have you. I'd like to start with this question to both of you. During the pandemic, there was an increase in the load on digital channels. How are you dealing with this problem? How did you deal with this problem during the crisis, and how are you dealing with this issue right now? Alexey, if you don't mind, could you please go first?
Thank you. I think there are two aspects at which we can look. The first one is the network sustainability. And in this sense, we didn't see much of the new challenges coming in terms of cybersecurity and access to our network. Where we saw the most challenges in our case is how we organize and help other businesses to organize distant work, where the circle of information or access to sensitive information goes beyond offices and beyond natural places of work. So we had to organize and help to organize to our B2B partners the work where, from houses, from their private computers, and provide access of our employees being in distant work to sensitive information and secure that. So that was, and we had to do that in a very quick time. So we had to, to do quick and organize it very efficiently and help our other businesses as well. So I think that's one of the key challenges which we saw, and we quite successfully, not only us, but we help other businesses quite successfully to deal with that. As far as for the network sustainability, network quality, and cybersecurity risks, usually which we deal with the access to our network, that also worked quite well with increased volume of traffic. And here we see normal course of work through our security operational centers and other ways how we help to manage and to operate our networks.
Thank you, Alexey. Sebastian, how are you dealing with the crisis?
Well, thank you. I think for Ericsson, not a very big shift. We already have a digital platform for our collaboration. We have managed personal computers and mobile phones, and we have all applications that can run sort of on digital platforms. So I think working from home, maybe the big change was maybe the social interaction that a lot of people miss. But I think we have been quite successful in testing, which is important as well, testing our business continuity and crisis management processes. And I think it's been working quite well. Then I think from a business point of view, just like Alexey pointed out, is that I think the big learning from this pandemic crisis is the increased awareness of the understanding of how important connectivity and telecommunication is for our society. Basically, if it wouldn't have been for the great connectivity and the digital platforms, we would have been seeing an increasingly big impact on health and safety and the impact on the economy as well. So I think that the general awareness of the importance of telecommunications and critical infrastructure, and also what we have seen also an increased demand in increasing reliability, security, capacity, and coverage of telecommunication networks.
Well, Sebastian, it's great to hear that you are prepared for the crisis. Now, my next question is for you, Sebastian, and this is fascinating. Ericsson began its work in Russia as early as 1881. That's 139 years ago. What are, in your opinion, the distinctive features of the Russian market? Have you noticed a difference in terms of threats and secure implementations of your technologies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually next year we are celebrating the 140-year anniversary. So we started a few years before I joined the company. We have. I think that the Russian telecom market is a great market. It's a very important market for us. It's a big market, and it's also a very efficient market. I think that if you come to Russia, you can experience good quality and very affordable services, but yet also quite profitable and successful operators. So I think that is based on two main things: competition. And also access to global technology. The Russian telecommunications market has so far been fully embracing sort of global collaboration, global partnerships, and also global technology. I think that, yes, we do see an increased level of interest and demand around security. But that is not only in Russia, that is a global demand, and that has also been one of the key aspects of developing the next generation of telecommunication network, which is 5G. So security has been an inherent requirement on all the specifications of 5G. And also Ericsson, in the implementation of the new 5G technology, have also invented new ways of addressing security, making automation and using artificial intelligence already in the design phase of the products, but also, of course, in how we deploy the networks in using automation, artificial intelligence to identify different patterns and usage of the networks. And this will become increasingly important also when you introduce 5G, because 5G is really a lot about new use cases and not so much about personal communication, but more machine-type communication. So 5G will be the platform for the society, for hospitals, for public transport, for everything to be connected. And of course, then the risk tolerance is very low, and you need to have an absolute trust in the underlying infrastructure. So yes, there is a big demand for security, and we are working hard, not only as a company, but with all our partners, including MTS as an operator, chipset provider, technology providers, in making sure that we can deploy the most secure infrastructure for today's networks and for the future.
Thank you, Sebastian. You mentioned 5G technology, so let's talk about that. Alexei, my next question is for you. I know that your company is actively developing this technology, and you are working in collaboration with Ericsson. I have some facts here. In March, you announced a partnership deal to modernize the network based on Ericsson's 5G-ready equipment and solutions in 16 regions of Russia's Central Federal District. What future do you see for this technology in our country? Are there any security risks and issues that are specific to Russia? Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we just disconnected for a moment, so we're going to have to use this time to talk about the current progress of the technical training. So let's use that moment to have some update on the technical training session. Inakenti, what can you tell us about the progress of the second track of Cyber Polygon, the technical training, please?
Thank you, Alexander. So actually, the first scenario of our cyber training is complete. We've seen that actually most of the teams got overwhelmed by this daunting task and didn't manage to score even a single point. But there are several teams that actually deserve our praise. For example, Team 14 managed to patch all but one vulnerabilities in an unfamiliar environment. So that's great. Back to you, Alexander.
Thank you, Inakenti. Ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry, but I think our speakers are back online, so I'm going to repeat my question again. Alexei, we started talking about 5G technology in Russia. So I know that in March you announced a partnership deal to modernize the network based on Ericsson's 5G equipment and solutions in 16 regions of Russia's Central Federal District. What future do you see for this technology in our country? Are there any security risks and issues that are specific to Russia?
Thank you. I think that, and we see it across the globe in the world, that 5G brings a different understanding of the risks because 5G technology will lead to a high dependency of all the infrastructure work of a lot of our smart cities connectivity and all that depending on 5G infrastructure. With the development Internet of Things, with the development of smart factories and all that, 5G becoming an essential part and will bring a higher role in in running the infrastructure, in running these cities with the smart vehicle, with the driverless cars and all that. The map of risks will become different, and that triggers all the governments across the globe to think how how they can assure sustainability of their networks, including the dependency on vendors and including dependency on equipment. So that I think we see in the context of global tensions around Huawei supplying a supplier in the United States and in many other aspects. That's because once again the different map of risks coming in the world with the 5G technology, with the development of high dependency of all our daily life from connectivity. In this aspect, I think Russia is having the same risks, in the same risk paradigm. The question how we respond, because here you are waiting the speed of the development, the speed of economical development, which is very much dependent on 5G implementation. So all this corporate industrial automatization, smart factories, smart cities, they're all very much be dependent tomorrow from 5G, from capacity, which 5G allows, on one side. On the other side, with that dependency, you need to make sure that your network already on the level of equipment is sustainable and controlled. So I think that's where we see the biggest challenge. So far, I think we'll see also in Internet of Things that the crypto requirements to the traffic which goes between in the network of Internet of Things will grow. We'll see many other aspects of high securitization of those 5G networks will be there in the place.
Thank you, Alexei. Gentlemen, I know that your companies also work closely in the development of artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. Could you please tell us about your plans to implement these technologies in Russia, and how are you going to make sure that this process goes smoothly and secure? Sebastian, could you please go first?
Okay, so I would like to start again with 5G, that is in itself an innovation platform. And if you see what 4G LTE did with Russia, you saw a lot of new companies, including Sberbank, launching a lot of interesting and innovative services on top of the 4G network. I think we cannot even today imagine what 5G will enable. And obviously, in the development of new application services, artificial intelligence will be one of the key sort of aspects or technologies or tools to use. For Ericsson, in our collaboration with MTS, we are in a new project in the center district, using artificial intelligence for predictive analytics to improve performance and maintenance and security of the network. The previous standards were designed for humans to manage the networks, but 5G, with its increased complexity due to more use cases, will require and is designed for basically machines to automate processes and identify patterns and do predictive analytics to improve performance. I would also like to add one other area which is related both to artificial intelligence and security, where we're also looking at the joint opportunity together with MTS, and that is private networks. So for some larger enterprises, specifically big production and manufacturing sites, there is an even increased level of security where you want to have your own physical network. We call it private networks. And here I see also an opportunity for using AI to even further enhance security also of private networks for big Russian industrial companies.
Thank you, Sebastian. Alexei, do you have anything to add on artificial intelligence and Internet of Things and how you're making sure that these technologies are implemented in a secure way?
Yeah, Internet of Things, I believe, will be one of the biggest game changers. According to McKinsey Global Research Institute, industrial automation will bring the most value add globally in the world over the next 10 years. And that will be based very much on Internet of Things. So I think that's one of the biggest game changers, and it comes in particular with 5G. In the context of cybersecurity, I think it also changes a little bit the approach, because if in the voice world, in the world of 4G and 3G, you are protecting channels, here you start already implementing some cybersecurity elements on devices. So right now we are not protecting devices, which is the phone. But when it comes to Internet of Things, when it comes to maintenance of infrastructure, critical infrastructure, you need to bring crypto algorithms back to the devices themselves. So that changes a little bit the approach. The second thing which we see already is appearing there in the context of industrial automation and Internet of Things, appearance of private elements of the networks. And here, by the way, we are quite actively developing this element together with the Ericsson. So we'll see more and more corporates, and we're already implementing this technology, creating a closed circle of their network and mobile networks, which is called private network. It can be private 5G network, private LTE network, where they are closing the network within their plant, factory, site, and by that protecting the site from external attacks. Today, in 2019, for example, we had more than 600 million attacks on MTS network and on our customers, purely on network itself. As it grows into devices, if it grows, the network grows into things, not only people, where you'll get not only humans being the connectivity point, but it will be things. The number of touch points will multiply. Today in Russia, you have only 140 plus million people, which you need to protect. Tomorrow you'll have billion of devices which need to be protected. And as I said, there are two elements of how you implement that: closing the networks, having private elements of the network, and set up the crypto algorithms on the devices themselves.
Wow, these are impressive numbers. Thank you for protecting us from so many attacks. Alexei, you mentioned earlier network equipment providers and the trust. I actually have a question from the website that is in line with that. I'm going to read it. At the moment, we see global dispute of trade, which was originally started by accusations of cybersecurity concerns not backed up by evidences. What would be the way to build internationally recognized cybersecurity specifications, standards, certifications, etc., which would allow global utilization of ICT and telecom equipment from every vendor? Do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, I think here is very important to start working with the global bodies which are setting the standards. That includes the standards on crypto security. Like, for example, Chinese, it took them about 6 years to integrate their crypto algorithms and their cybersecurity requirements into global standards, which are developed by 3GPP body. So I think here, in order to create the trust, you need, and we need, potentially the Russia, from our regulators to go and work with global setting standards where we are building the, integrating our requirements and in particular security requirements into global standards. And by that we can increase the trust, but it's not the only one element. I think it is important to have also local crypto algorithms for critical infrastructure, like in Internet of Things. So there are many other elements which can be developed locally here and implemented, but I think there is no other way how to combine those two approaches. First, to work with global suppliers in the global standards, and the second, to develop local solutions and local tools.
All right, thank you, Alexei. I believe we have 1 minute left. Sebastian, do you have anything to add to what Alexei just said on the topic?
No, I think I fully agree with what Alexei said. And final comment maybe that we are living in a digital economy, and the digital economy can only be one economy, and it doesn't care about geographical borders. So global collaboration is the starting point. Having global standards and trusted partners working together in a trusted environment, and having a holistic view on security, from standardization to the network operations, understanding also the devices, encryption technologies, is going to be the key to address security concerns.
All right, Alexei, Sebastian, thank you very much for joining us today and for your contribution to the fight against cybercrime. Thank you.